Hey Mama's Monkey followers, thank you so much for stopping by another Mama's Monkey moment. I greatly appreciate you guys tuning in and all of your support. For those of you who are sharing the links, who are following me, who have sent me all these friend requests, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Without you guys, as I've said before, this goes nowhere. So I do appreciate your loyalty, and I do want to also apologize for being a little bit delayed on some of my posts. These last 2 weeks have been just a little hectic with just a bunch of different events I've got going on. And I don't want to put anything out that I don't feel like is my best work, or I don't feel like it's been tripled and doubled checked by myself, and I feel like it's up to the standards for you guys to read it or just preview it. So therefore, I am back, and I do want to let you know that every Monday and Wednesday I will be a bit more consistent going forward. Now that that's out of the way, I do want to discuss a topic that I briefly mentioned in my last post called Dating Myself, which is pretty much about how being a mom allows us to get so wrapped up in that role of super mom and super wife or super whomever that we do not realize that we are not taking time for ourselves, and we kind of become engulfed in this role and we get run down, and we just don't have a moment for us, and we don't do just little things that make us feel beautiful or important or special or just happy. You know, simple things from ladies' night to catching a flick independently to just taking a bubble bath without the kids pounding on the door. Something little, something minute, just based on the roles that we play. Sometimes we're like, well, I can't do that. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the time for me, because those moments I have to cash in on something else in my role of mom or wife, so that is pretty much what that post was about. However, I did briefly describe that, or mention rather, that I did suffer with, or do, I would say I'm transitioning out of the space of postpartum depression. And I felt like it's a topic that we don't really speak about. I feel as though even when I had my first child, it wasn't something I was pretty informed about. And even more so, my second child, and they're about 6 years apart, it's not a topic that is discussed. I feel like even me going into it, I had a certain level of ignorance that I'm almost positive a lot of other mothers have as well when it comes to postpartum depression. So today I will speak a little bit about where I'm coming from with that experience, and kind of coming on the other side of that and through the tunnel of it, as well as I will further explain more of the in-depth, I don't want to say symptoms, if you will, in writing in my post, but I'll speak more about myself in this video, just kind of what I went through and how I realized that shit just wasn't right and I might need to go talk to somebody. So October, like Halloween weekend actually, to be very exact, is when I was officially diagnosed with postpartum depression. I dropped my kid off to a Halloween party and I went to go see a psychiatrist. Yes, this is a head shrink, a person that will write you a prescription to get your life, and that is what I had to do. Now, culturally, for us black people, we don't do that. We don't talk to nobody about no problems. We damn sure ain't gonna go sit down and have nobody write us no prescription to fix it. We won't take no medication, like nothing. Like, that is just one of those stigmas that unfortunately our community does perpetuate, which I think does make it very hard for us mothers and women in our community to seek the help that is really desperately needed sometimes in that particular instance for postpartum depression. There are 3 different types of postpartum depression. There is postpartum depression, like baby blues, which is kind of when you're all bummed out about, you just having a new baby and you're kind of just not really ready and you just feel like you're just not prepared in that sense. And that kind of happens about 3 days to 2 weeks after having the baby. And that's pretty much how long that lasts. That just stays in that realm. Postpartum depression, which is what I have, is a little bit more severe than that, and it lasts a bit longer, as well as you sometimes don't even notice that you have these symptoms until about 6 months after, as you can, I don't know if you can hear it, but my daughter is whining in the bedroom because it is nap time and she doesn't believe that it is nap time for her. And at a point, this would have me on high anxiety where I'm like, okay, I gave you a bottle, I changed your pamper, you're watching little Einsteins, you got a pacifier, what do you want from me? I am in a different space now where I can just say, you know what, I did everything that I could do as a mom, and she's just being fussy, and she just needs to take some time to understand that it doesn't work always on her time. It just doesn't. And I'm in a different space. She stopped. She's not even talking about it now. In any event, yes, postpartum depression. So this can last for up into about a year after you have your baby. And you may not notice it, like I said, up until about 6 months after, which I do believe is probably around the time that I did notice that I just wasn't quite right. I had my daughter in March, and like I said, by October, I was like, okay, you're very different. You're different. You're not your same self, and you need to figure out what's the instance. And then there is postpartum psychosis, which is way more intense, far more extreme, and it's also very rare. It is a very rare case of depression within women who have had a baby, and it has more to do with you being obsessive, you are hallucinating, you're not really sleeping, you have more negative thoughts, you're more manic in that situation. So I would say between baby blues and just regular postpartum depression is where most women fall. And within me, I did not have that with my first son. I did, however, get it with my second child. And I feel that it is super important to discuss it, because there are a lot of women out there who don't even know that maybe these emotions that they're going through, it's not your fault. Like, it's not you're not changing because you have a baby. I mean, yes, you're changing because you have a baby, but it's your hormone levels. Like, these are things that you can't even control. There's nothing you can do about crying, about the supermarket being all out of bananas, or why your kid took a bite out of your slice of pizza, which is exactly the moment that sent me reeling out of absolute control and let me know that I did need to go and speak to someone about what was going on emotionally within myself. So I'm going to back up the train, and I'm going to take it all the way to, I'll say, the beginning of where I felt that I was becoming increasingly more emotional. So I had my daughter in March, like I said, and by about the summer, by about June, July, I found myself being a little bit more intense. I found myself being more intense in my relationship. I found myself being more intense about needing to juggle my 2 children. Now, my son goes to a charter school, so he has to be to school at that time, 7:15 in the morning. So for me, I was like, how in the fuck in the winter am I going to get up, get my daughter who's on this breastfeeding schedule, because at this time I tried very desperately to breastfeed. How am I going to synchronize them both, because they're 2 very different children and on 2 very different schedules, and how am I going to do it both? My fiance has to be to work at 7 a.m. so it's not like he can hold the bottle while I do this, while I do that. Like, no, girlfriend. Like, that was just me and only me independently. My mother is deceased. She was there for my first child, so I had a lot more help with that, and that took over, that maybe took off some of the edge. Why I don't think when it came to having my second child, I was like, oh shit, this is so different. This is very, very different. I did that a lot more independently than I did my first child. I was also 21 when I had my first child. So I feel like my mother just wanted to really, really make sure that I wasn't a hot ass mess and didn't, go out in the world and be responsible for screwing up some poor innocent soul. So definitely had a lot more assistance with my first child than I did my second. So back to that. So the schedule was super, super hectic. In the morning, she had a 6 a.m. bottle, and in the interim, I'm getting my son up for 6:30, trying to get him to eat breakfast and fly to the other side of Queens so he can get to school on time. So I'm throwing the baby in her fleece onesie, and we're trying to make it like, it was a lot. It was a lot in the morning, and some mornings I was like, yo, what am I doing? What are you doing? You're a motherfucking mess. That's what you are. You drink coffee, you're not really eating, you're not really, and of course then I would feel bad because I would drink my coffee, forget, maybe my toast or whatever, and then be like, oh my God, I gotta feed the baby, then feed the baby, and be like, Jesus Christ, you didn't eat. So now you're giving the baby gas. So it was like this cycle of feeling bad about just not being on top and together of things in a way that I was when I just had one kid and I had my schedule and I was just the bomb. Like, I was just on point. And that was hard for me. That was really, really hard for me to be feeling like I'm juggling all these things and it just couldn't gel. It just wasn't coming together the way that I anticipated it. And that was a bit emotional for me. I really did feel at a point that I was failing at a task that I absolutely wasn't. but we are our worst critics, so that is the beginning of that. As per the summer, it got a bit easier. He went to camp started at 9. I was already used to my schedule of getting up super early, so I was able to kind of position the children a bit better, and that helped me get a grip of things. However, I was a little bit more insecure in my relationship, and I say that because like I said, I had a baby. It's summer. I didn't necessarily feel as comfortable in certain things that I would wear in the summertime. And I think those insecurities manifested in multiple different areas. And I don't think my ability to communicate was as good as it could have been, just based upon all these emotions that were going on. And I feel men can only process but so much. They're simple creatures. And I felt like I was just oozing all this emotion all the time. And I think I'm sure at some point he was like, bitch, like what? Like what today? What else can I not fucking do right today? In retrospect, I'm able to look at it and kind of say, you could have handled some things differently. But of course, you cannot control your emotions in postpartum. You just can't. It's not your fault. It's just not your fault. Fast forwarding into the end of the summer, going into the fall, I learned to start writing my feelings, hence Mama's Monkey, really, really manifesting into what it was. Although it did start as a college project about 7.5 years ago, I started really writing a lot more of my feelings down during this second child, because I felt like I was speaking so much about it to my friends and my partner, and I just felt like I was just always talking about sometimes the same things, and I felt like at a point nobody understood what I was talking about, that I was just being aggravating. I just felt like I was being excessive about some of the same things. So I was just writing and writing and writing. And I noticed that a lot of my journal entries started with, I'm so sad. I'm so sad. I'm sad about this. I'm sad about that. This hurts my feelings, this, that, and the third. And I can be an emotional individual. I can admit that. But to a certain degree, though, I think I just became almost overly emotional at a point. And I guess I overlooked it because I felt like I was just going through so many changes. So, that was the cause of this extra emotion that I was possessing. But one day, this one very, very specific day tipped the scales. I'm in the house. It's probably a weekend. I think it was definitely a weekend because both of my kids were home with me. And it's lunchtime. I hadn't gone food shopping because now food shopping with both kids, I just wasn't with the shits. I just hate food shopping. So I guess it's a Saturday and I'm like, fuck it. You're going to have Burger King nuggets and I'll just grab a pizza or something. Whatever it was. In any event, I just didn't feel like cooking anything. I just didn't feel. And that's another thing with postpartum depression. You just don't want to do shit. Everything feels so hard. It is a task to do laundry, to get out the bed, to do sometimes the simplest things just feel like the ultimate mission. And of course, if you are a good mother, that is stressing you out as to why you just don't want to, because you have to. But it's bothering you that you don't want to, and it's just so difficult for you to do these things. In any event, so grab the kids together, I go to Burger King, I run across the street and get a slice of pizza, and I'm like, okay, good. I'm coming back in the house. I am West Indian, so those of you who are, when your kids reach a certain stage, you are giving your kids cornmeal porridge. Like, that is what you're doing, and that is some from scratch ass shit. Therefore, you are stirring and stirring and stirring and stirring. For about 30 minutes, you're stirring and mixing ingredients. So Callie was all done with her other pot, so now I had to make a new pot of cornmeal porridge as well as feed Keaton. And those of you who have kids between the age of about 5 and 8, they're pretty like hey, I'm hungry. How about now? What about now? What are you doing? How about now? I'm hungry. I'm still hungry. Hey, by the way, I'm hungry. So I had to give him his food. So I had his nuggets and he ate them, and I didn't get to eat my pizza. And I'm pretty particular. I like my pizza like really hot. Like, I don't even want anything to do with cold pizza. But my kids come first. So I'm making my daughter's cornmeal porridge and it's almost done. So in that event, I've got Callie in one arm because I had fucked up and kind of turned her into a hand baby. So I got her in one arm and I'm stirring the cornmeal porridge with the other, and I'm stirring and I'm stirring and I'm stirring, and it's almost done. And I'm seeing victory and glory, and both kids will be fed, and I can eat my pizza, and I can just throw my feet up, and I can go back to just not wanting to do shit, right? Cool. Not so much. So the porridge is done, it's blended, I give it to her. I'm getting ready to get on my pizza. My son thought it would be wonderful to take a bite out of my slice of pizza. Did I not have a full-fledged motherfucking meltdown? I did. Hysterics. And I do mean hysterics. I mean tears. I am bawling. He did not sell my identity. He did not lose my wallet. He didn't lose the house keys. He did not steal from me. He took a bite out of my pizza. I completely lost it. I mean, closed the bathroom door, hysterically crying. And I'm like, no one in this house cares about me. No one loves me. That is so selfish. Why would you eat my pizza? You had your nuggets. And I'm literally like ripped, like I'm oozing all of this emotion into this 6-year-old child who's looking at me like, I took a bite of your pizza. Like, what? And I'm such in a trance that I'm not realizing that my kid is totally bugging out at how I'm losing it over him taking a bite of my pizza. And even in myself, I'm not realizing that I'm just expressing these emotions to my 6-year-old. Of course, that made me feel horrible later. Because he's like, oh my God, I'm making my mother cry because I took a bite of her pizza. Like, this is a horrible thing that I did. And of course it's not that big of a deal, but I couldn't control my emotions. And I'm just going on. I'm sorry, I just got my little twist, so I just don't know what to do with myself. And I'm just going on and on and on and on about how nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, it doesn't matter. You know, I just do everything for everyone and no one considers me. And I'm just literally just letting him have it. And he's like, okay, bitch, you done? Are you done though? Are you finished or are you done? Because I just took a bite of your pizza and you're doing a lot. So after that happens, and I emerge from the bathroom, and my son is like, Mommy, were you crying? Like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm sorry. You know, it had nothing to do with you. Mommy is upset about something totally different. You know, I apologize. It's not you. It's not your fault. And in that moment, I knew I had to go talk to somebody. I knew this wasn't normal, that it was more than, you know, pressure or just me, that this was deeper than rap. And I went and I found a psychiatrist and I made an appointment. So fast forward to Halloween weekend, I go to the appointment, and you know, the guy is nice. You know, he's cool guy, Haitian guy, and you know, he's got this wall covered in accolades and diplomas and degrees and awards. And I'm like, all right, you might know what you're doing. So I, you know, get comfy in the chair and he's telling me about yourself. And so I give him, you know, the synopsis of my life. That was probably the quickest synopsis I've ever given anybody. But just kind of like what's going on in your day-to-day life right now, and, you know, what's your most recent, you know, things. So he's like, So he writes it down, So I'm just like, okay, doc, so like, what's the deal? Like, I'm bugging or not? He's like, well, you have postpartum depression. Who told that man to tell me that? So now I'm getting ready to tell him all about himself and his mother, because I'm like, I love my baby. Like, you're bugging out. You're crazy. I don't hate my child. I don't not want to have my baby. Like, I was so angry by it. I was offended. I was legit offended, because in my mind, postpartum depression meant that I didn't want my kid. It meant that I was not happy to have her. It meant that my life was over. It just meant all these negative connotations. And I feel like if I feel like that, I feel like there's probably a bunch of you out there who assume the same thing. I can't be by myself on that, where when you hear postpartum depression, it just means that you feel a way about your child. And that wasn't it. Like, I was just super ignorant to that, clearly. So as I'm getting agitated, like, no, I definitely don't think that that's the case. I definitely think you might need to reevaluate that. And all of this is happening right now. And he's just like, so he then starts to describe these feelings. He's like, well, how about this? And how about that? And does your day feel like this? And do you feel like this when you talk? And do you feel like that? And I'm like, to look into. Like, things that I had left out in my synopsis of my life, if you will, he was describing, like, how I did feel. And, you know, does it feel this intense? I mean, when my son ate that pizza, I felt like he was slicing away at an artery on the inside. Like, I was hurt, like hurt. And he was like, yeah, it feels a lot more intense. And as he's describing these feelings and how my day-to-day kind of goes and how I feel in these interims, I'm kind of starting to think to myself, like, oh shit, I really might have postpartum depression, because now he's telling me, he's describing verbatim emotions that I absolutely have and feelings that I absolutely have without even knowing that I have them, even knowing that I feel these things. And that was it was a catch-22, because it was a relief to know that it wasn't like just me. Like, I wasn't broken. I wasn't, I just wasn't off on this whole new journey and this new experience, and I just became this whole nother woman because I had a second child. But that there was also, you know, that there was just something wrong hormonally, and that's not my fault. I couldn't control it. And it was also sad because I was like, wow, like, I got postpartum depression. Like, how the fuck I get that? Like, but he, you know, saw my personality and that I had 2 kids. And at the time, Callie was about 7 months. And he was like, I need you to be alert, though. Like, I want you to be alert. I want you to be able to do things and function. So he prescribed to me Wellbutrin, which is also treated for ADHD, which really helps you focus, and but also calms, you know, offsets, you know, some kind of depression, but makes you feel jump-started to do things and be active. Because for me, like I said, it was hard. I didn't want to do a lot of things. There was a point in time where I think I just watched everything that Hulu had to offer. Like, I just didn't want to leave the bed. Like, I just did not. If there was, I just did not. Period. Didn't. So he prescribed that and an anti-anxiety for me, because my anxiety level was just up there. And it was a very, very mild dosage. And for me, I didn't really know how to take being on medication for that. I was like, well, can't I, like, say a chant or something? Like, can't we just give me, like, a little outline of things to do and feel, and then we all good? He was like, no. What we're gonna do is give you this medication and let you kind of re-enter life and be productive, and we're just gonna see how that works. And essentially, you know, we'll wean you off of it. And that's what it was. And the first 2 days, I cleaned my bedroom, I organized, I just felt so ready for the world. I was so productive. And I don't know if it was also because having had that talk, it let me know that there wasn't just me, and that there was so much more to the situation than my emotions, you know, that it wasn't, that there was something wrong, excuse me, that it's okay. It's okay to have a meltdown. It's okay to feel like this, because now you know what the reason is, and we're gonna work on it. And it just made me so ready for the world after. I just had more energy, and I was just more productive, and I was just even more so obsessed with overcoming this, because at this point now I knew what it was, and I just felt like I had to be so much more conscious of how I entered dialogue with my partner, dialogue with my kids, getting more organized with my kids, because I also realized that being off task and being disorganized created more anxiety, which created, you know, more stress. And then I would feel more failure if I'm not making it to karate on time, I'm not making it to swimming on time, I'm not making it to school on time, and I'm running up the stairs with my kids, and it's winter. It's just, I just realized that there had to be a systematic cycle of things in order for me to get better on the inside. So that is what I did. But for some of you ladies out there who are pregnant right now, or those of you who just had a baby and you are going through the changes, do not trip. It is not you. You are not bugging. And if you feel like you are losing your shit and you're OD emo, then you need to go talk to somebody. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And don't let anybody make you feel like you are crazy if you do, because you are crazy when you don't. You can't control that. And essentially, if you don't control just baby blues, you know, it will filter into postpartum. And if you don't take care of postpartum, it will filter into postpartum psychosis, which is then now a whole nother magnitude of emotions. And who wants to do that? no one wants to deal with that. I feel like if you kind of take into account what you're going through right now and you need to speak to somebody, make sure you do that. Make sure you get that mental health for yourself. Understand that sometimes your partner may not get it. I learned that, but I also feel as though I probably could have given him the opportunity to. I think I just assumed that he wouldn't get it. That, you know, mental health or that speaking to somebody was just like this taboo. Like I said, our culture, the stigma, like, oh, girl, you gonna go talk to somebody? I told you it was crazy. You know, I felt like he wouldn't embrace it. He wouldn't be supportive of it. And as opposed to telling him and allowing him to react, I kind of made the decision for him. I didn't tell him until about 3 or 4 months into being treated. And at some point, I don't even remember how it came out, but it was just kind of like, either I just told him, or I can't remember, but I just do know it was one of those things where he was a little offended that I didn't tell him, that I didn't allow him to be maybe supportive. And I was like, well, I just knew you wasn't going to. I just knew you was going to have some slick shit to say, and I just didn't feel like dealing with that. And unfortunately, that may not have been the case. It really may have been just my sensitivity and my emotions at the time that controlled how I managed that, even though my psychiatrist told me the perfect way to go about it. You know, he's like, you know, you research it with him, or, you know, you give him, you know, the paperwork to kind of read so he can better understand it. I ain't do none of that shit. I ain't do that. I told him, and then I just gave him my rendition of it, and then when his response was what it was, like, then I gave him the paperwork. I did my own shit. That's what I did. I don't recommend that. I would recommend that you follow exactly what your psychiatrist tells you to do or your therapist tells you to do, which is research it, become more familiar with the illness, make sure that you get your partner familiar with the illness, and just how you guys can collectively work together to be a better unit and help you get over that hump, because you are no good to your kids or your family if you are just in this realm, in this zone of constant emotional stress, and your relationships will suffer. And I say relationships, like your friendships and your relationship with your partner will go through its transitional periods because of this, if you don't really acknowledge it and you don't make sure that you get to the bottom of it. So I absolutely do hope that this video has given you a bit of courage for those of you who might be going through something like this and you're just a little embarrassed. Don't be, embrace it. Even Melanie Fiona, shout out to her. I want to do an interview with her. So if you're seeing this, I totally want to do a one-on-one with you about it, because I don't think enough of us speak about that change and that transition and how hard that is. I feel like not enough of us talk about what it is like for that transition with 2 kids, and not enough of us discuss what that is like to have that whole life of yours go from 1 to 2, or from none to 2, or from none to 1, and you're juggling school maybe and work and being a wife, or being like, it's just a lot. It is a lot. And I think we just see strong independent women like, yes, but you doing it. But obviously she's not talking about it. She's not letting you know, like, girl, bye, I ain't slept in 2 days. I had a granola bar and some coffee for lunch and dinner. My kids ate. Everybody ate everything out the pie. Nobody leave me nothing. Nobody made me a plate. Had a churro for breakfast. Like, nobody's talking about that. People are not getting into their dirty laundry, which is probably exactly what it is, because, well, who does that? You know, who's going to talk about that weakness and that struggle? Because that's what we are conditioned to think, that going to a therapist or talking about these things are a weakness. We feel like that makes us feel like we're failing as mothers, and you're not. You're absolutely not. You can talk to your friend about it, which is great, which might be a super great way to get that outlet out there, but it's just not the same. It's not the same thing if you are beyond a certain space where you might need to be on medication and see somebody weekly or monthly to help you kind of get back on track and rearrange your situation and get you back on track. And I do hope, again, that this is something that inspires those of you who are going through it, that lets you know that it is not you, that lets you know that you can speak out loud about it. It is important that you speak out loud about it. You wear it as a badge of honor. Like me, I'm on the other side of this. I feel like I am so much stronger. At first, I think I was a little secretive and a little embarrassed, and I just realized, like, how can I be embarrassed? If I don't speak about it, there are not going to be other women who are going to be privy to it and understand. Like I said, I was ignorant to it with my first child as well as my second. I thought that postpartum depression was this horrible negative thing that just was reserved for women who just didn't want their children, and that's just not it at all. And it is important for us to speak about it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you are following us on our website at www.mamasmonkey.com. Please make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram at mamasmonkey_. And again, you know, we have some YouTube videos. Just please share. If you like the post, share it. I appreciate that you like it, but I'm gonna need you to share it, because sharing it is where it, you know, that I'm gonna need people to see my video now, y'all. Again, thank you guys so much, and I do apologize for the delays, and I will be far more on top of things going forward. Stay tuned for our next post on Monday, and take care. Enjoy your weekend. Stay beautiful, ladies. Bye-bye.